Hello everyone, welcome back to another art time lapse. Today I am doing a wooden keychain with art inspired by Studio Ghibli's HOWL'S moving castle, and in particular the character I'm looking at is Calcifer. I think Calcifer is one of my favorite characters from HOWL'S moving castle. I love how he has a little bit of edge to him and he's just so playful, and overall I love the vibe that he's not the perfect character. So for Calcifer, I'm going to have him in a glass bottle, so I'm going to have a cork at the end of it. So I'm using these acrylic markers called Posca brand markers to work on it. And at the same time using this Sakura jelly roll that I picked up at my local art store to do some of the finer white details. I'm going to start by doing the glass bulb, the white marker is gonna highlight the outside of it and have that glass bulb drawn before painting Calcifer himself, which I think would be so adorable. If I could, I'm actually planning on doing a couple of different forms of Calcifer, and hopefully you will enjoy those upcoming videos on the various wooden keychains that I'm gonna do with these acrylic markers. So when I first thought of doing keychains, I want to do something different than just acrylics. I was thinking it would be really fun to paint on wood, but I didn't know what medium would work, and I found that acrylics was a really good choice, and I want to share that with you in case you're interested in doing a project similar to this for yourself or for your friend or with your little one, because it's actually quite easy to do and very affordable. So I pick up these wooden keychains online. They came quite quickly, and I got actually a thicker wood piece. Later on I'll show you a closer look at the keychain. So everything's prepackaged. I don't have to worry about carving wood and such, and I can just focus specifically on the artwork itself. Using a Sakura jelly roll, you can see I'm almost finished with doing this glass bulb. A Sakura jelly roll, it's great for people who maybe are a little bit overwhelmed by the idea of painting artwork, because at least it's a pen or marker form. Makes it a lot easier for you to draw and maneuver and do fine details with. The only thing I would mention about some of these jelly roll and inks is that they do dry permanent, but it's important to note that in the beginning, when you first apply the ink, it does take a little bit of time for it to dry, so don't touch it right away or else it's gonna smudge. But on the other hand, I do see this as a pro in that it doesn't dry immediately. So if you make a mistake, you can quickly just go back with a tissue or your hand, just swipe it off quickly while it's still wet. So here you can see I'm just giving it a little bit of time to dry. At the same time, I think this white jelly roll is a great opportunity to kind of highlight where I will have the Calcifer eyes and anything white and small detail that it's hard to do with a paintbrush. So next I'm gonna work on Calcifer himself, which is this little feisty fireball from HOWL'S Moving Castle. I think I'm going to use a combination of yellow, orange, and red. And I have all of these colors at my disposal that I picked up for Posca markers. And that's one thing I should mention, is because for Posca markers, it's not really meant for you to blend the colors to get variant colors available. That's why they have such a large variety of colors they have on the website. The idea is that you just get the specific color you want and use them as marker, not as a blending tool, let's say with brushes. So that's why I do have a selection of Posca markers to start off, trying not to go with too much, because I do love my art supplies. I'm trying to be good at it, so I started off with a composite around 7 to 8 colors. I chose my own palette, but they do come in sets that are kind of predetermined if you have trouble deciding on which colors that you will like. They have some that are just primary colors and some that are more neutral and pastel-y, which I think is very cute as well. So here I'm actually using a light orange for Calcifer's face for the most part. Great thing about acrylics is that they do dry opaque, and afterwards if you make a mistake, you can always go back and paint another layer on top to kind of cover up your previous mistake if that is an issue for you. And I really like that, because sometimes for watercolor, I find that watercolor is not as forgiving in that you only have that finite amount of time to kind of make those changes, and then it's permanent. Whereas for acrylics or even acrylic wash, if you make a mistake, you can just like put paint on top and just redo it. So here you can see I'm finished with the light orange. I'm now going to go into the red. I usually start with my lighter colors and then move toward my darker colors. And with each layer, I make sure that I give it ample amount of time for it to dry. And like the amount of time for acrylics to dry really depends on like the surface area, how thick the layer you're putting it on, the type of material you're putting it on, to kind of determine how long it takes to dry. And I would say for this keychain, given it's quite small, you can see in comparison with my hand there, this keychain is taking me maybe like a minute or 2 minutes for it to fully dry. I'm in like well circulated area as well. If you don't have it fully dry and just apply the next layer on, there's a tendency that the colors can blend and look a little bit murky. So that's just the only downside to it. But like I mentioned, because the acrylic paints are so opaque, you can always paint over it if you make a mistake. So here you can see Calcifer is slowly come into play. I'm gonna actually have Calcifer hold on to like a piece of firewood, and it's just hanging in there. I'm debating at this point whether I should leave the firewood as like an empty space, given that I'm actually painting on a piece of wood. So I thought the grain, the natural grain in the wooden back should be sufficient. But I'm gonna use this brown color Posca to kind of outline the piece of firewood. I actually quite like using brown as an outliner rather than using like a black outliner. I feel it's a little bit softer, and like it's great especially when you're drawing something ultra cute, and it's not as harsh. I would say that like I feel like when I'm using a black liner, there's a lot of pressure to make it like a perfect line, whereas I think like for a brown color, I don't know, it just feels a bit softer and like more forgiving. So here I'm just outlining the piece of wood that Calcifer is holding on to. I think it's looking pretty cute so far. I actually really enjoy painting this character. I know that it's not an ultra popular character from Howl's Moving Castle, but so far for me, a lot of times I need to remind myself that I'm painting for my own interest, for my own enjoyment. It's not about like other people, and that's something that I just constantly have to remind myself, because like it's so easy to kind of veer off and just paint for what other people tell you or is popular or they like. But like it's good to paint for yourself and like paint about things that sings to your heart and makes you happy. So doing these keychains are like a way for myself to be happy, but hopefully like you're enjoying this video too, and whoever gets this keychain at the end will also be very happy with the final product. So here just want to highlight like Calcifer's little mouth, the red, and like these really fine details. It's just so much easier to do with a marker as opposed to a paintbrush. I can't emphasize that enough. There's just so much pressure when you're doing these little details that like having a marker just give me a little bit more confidence when I'm doing these details. Now I'm just adding the dotted eyes for Calcifer, and like overall I'm pretty happy of how it's coming out. After I finish with the acrylics and everything is dry, I'm actually going to put a seal on the piece to make sure that like the paint doesn't come off easily. After all, it is a keychain, so someone might be wearing it on their tote bag or their backpack, and I really hate for it to get tarnished or like worn easily. I don't anticipate people like encasing this little keychain for display. I was hoping they would use it to have something like that will bring joy with them, like an art piece that they can carry around with them and like talk about the story of like how they enjoyed the movie or enjoyed the character and how they speak to them. I think it's a great conversational piece. So here you can see I'm using my white jelly roll to highlight like the corners and the details for the character. I think this is like a great little project if you're looking for something that is only like 15 minutes or half an hour, you just don't have a large chunk of time. I think making these small art pieces with these acrylic markers is a great like therapeutic art idea if you're looking for something to do with like your friends or your kids. Of course, for these acrylic markers, make sure to store them sideways so that the nibs are always wet, so that they will last a lot longer. For the price that I pay for these Posca markers, I think I've gotten a lot of joy and a lot of fun out of painting with them, so I'm pretty happy with this product. Of course, I can always use my traditional acrylics to substitute for colors in between that I don't have, instead of just buying the whole color selection. But next, I'm gonna show you a closer look at how this calcifer came out from Howl's Moving Castle. Isn't he absolutely adorable? I'm so happy about it. Well, that's it for my art time-lapse video of calcifer keychain. I hope you enjoyed it. I also want to show you some of the other keychains that I've been working on but didn't get a chance to do a full time-lapse of, so hopefully you will see some of these at my upcoming convention. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Hope you stay safe and stay creative, everyone. Bye for now.